Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. How are you today? Today, I am here with Daniel, and we're going to learn where, when, and why. 3 relative adverbs that many English learners find confusing.
Hello, everyone. Don't worry if these words sound difficult. By the end of today's lesson, they'll be much easier to understand.
That's right. Native speakers use these words every day in conversations, stories, and writing.
And once you know how to use them correctly, your English will sound much more natural.
So first, let's answer an important question. What is a relative adverb?
A relative adverb connects 2 ideas and gives more information about a place, time, or reason.
In other words, it helps us combine 2 sentences into one smoother sentence.
Exactly. Instead of using 2 short sentences, we can connect them naturally.
For example, this is the cafe where we first met.
Here, where connects the place with more information about it.
We'll also learn how to use when to talk about time.
And we'll learn how why explains the reason for something.
We'll use plenty of simple examples, common mistakes, and real conversations.
So relax, listen carefully, and try repeating the example sentences after us.
In the next session, we'll begin with our first relative adverb, where. Let's begin with our first relative adverb, where.
Where is used to give more information about a place.
In simple words, where means in which place.
Let's look at an example. This is the restaurant where we had dinner last night.
Here, where connects the restaurant with the information about what happened there.
Another example is, I remember the park where we used to play as children.
We can also say, that's the city where I was born.
Notice that where always refers to a place, such as a city, school, office, house, or cafe.
Here's another example. She showed me the library where she studies every weekend.
Instead of saying she studies every weekend in the library, we can combine the ideas with where.
That's what makes your English sound smoother and more natural.
Here's a useful question to ask yourself. Am I talking about a place? If the answer is yes, where is often the correct choice.
Native speakers use where all the time in conversations because it's simple and natural.
Practice making your own sentences with places you know, like your school, hometown, or favorite restaurant.
In the next session, we'll look at common mistakes learners make with where and how to avoid them. We've learned that where is used to talk about places. Now let's look at some common mistakes.
Great idea. One mistake many learners make is saying, this is the place where I met there.
That's incorrect because where already means in that place. We don't need the word there.
The correct sentence is, this is the place where I met my best friend.
Here's another example. The hotel where we stayed was very comfortable.
Notice how where connects the hotel with the information about staying there.
We can also say, this is the office where my father works.
Or, that's the beach where we spent our summer vacation.
Sometimes learners ask, can I use which instead of where?
Yes, but the sentence becomes longer. For example, this is the restaurant in which we had dinner.
In everyday conversation, native speakers usually prefer where because it's shorter and more natural.
Here's another example. I found a quiet cafe where I can study every afternoon.
Remember this simple rule. If you're talking about a place, where is usually the best relative adverb.
The more you practice using where in real conversations, the more natural your English will sound.
In the next session, we'll learn our second relative adverb, when, and discover how to connect ideas about time naturally. Let's move on to our second relative adverb, when.
When is used to give more information about time.
In simple words, when means at which time.
For example, I remember the day when we first met.
Here, when connects the day with the event that happened on that day.
Another example is, summer is the season when many people travel.
We can also say, do you remember the time when we missed the train?
Notice that when refers to words about time, such as day, year, month, morning, evening, childhood, or moment.
Here's another example. 2020 was the year when many people started working from home.
Or, that was the moment when I realized I wanted to learn English.
Using when helps combine two ideas into one smooth, natural sentence. Instead of saying, I remember that day, we graduated on that day, we simply say, I remember the day when we graduated.
A useful question to ask yourself is, am I talking about a time or a date?
If the answer is yes, when is usually the correct relative adverb.
In the next session, we'll look at common mistakes with when and learn how native speakers use it in everyday conversations.
Now that we understand when, let's practice it with some everyday examples and common mistakes. Great! One common mistake is saying, I remember the day when we met. That's incorrect, because the word when should only appear once. The correct sentence is, I remember the day when we met. Here's another example. Christmas is the time when families spend time together. Notice that when connects the time with what happens during that time. We can also say, do you remember the year when you started learning English? Or, that was the moment when I realized I wanted to change my life. Some learners ask, can I use that instead of when? Yes, sometimes you can. For example, I remember the day that we met. Both sentences are correct. However, using when often sounds more natural because it clearly refers to time. Here's another example. I'll never forget the morning when I got my first job. So here's an easy rule. If the noun is about time, like day, year, month, moment, or time, when is usually the best relative adverb. The more you read and listen to English, the more naturally you'll start using when in your own conversations. In the next session, we'll learn our final relative adverb, why, and see how it helps us explain reasons. We've learned where for places and when for time. Now it's time for our final relative adverb, why.
Why is used to give more information about a reason.
In simple words, why means for which reason.
The most common noun used before why is reason.
For example, do you know the reason why she left early?
Here, why explains the reason for her leaving early.
Another example is, can you tell me the reason why you're smiling?
Or, I finally understood the reason why he was upset.
Notice that why usually follows the word reason.
That's an easy way to remember it. If you're talking about a reason, why is often the correct relative adverb.
We can also say, there's no reason why you should give up.
Or, that's the reason why I started learning English every day.
Using why helps us connect two ideas into one smooth and natural sentence.
Native speakers use this structure all the time in everyday conversations because it's clear and easy to understand.
In the next session, we'll look at common mistakes with why and practice using where, when, and why together in real conversations. Now let's practice why and review all three relative adverbs together.
Great! One common mistake is saying the reason because I was late.
That's incorrect. We don't usually say the reason because. Instead, we say the reason why, or simply the reason.
The correct sentence is, the reason why I was late was the heavy traffic.
Or even more naturally, the reason I was late was the heavy traffic.
Now let's review all three relative adverbs with one conversation. This is the cafe where we first met. Here, where tells us about a place.
I still remember the day when we met. Here, when tells us about time.
That's the reason why I always smile when I come here. Here, why explains the reason.
See how easy it becomes? Where equals place. When equals time. Why equals reason.
Let's try another example. The school where I studied is still open.
The year when I graduated was unforgettable.
The reason why I became an English teacher is that I love helping people learn.
These three relative adverbs help you connect ideas naturally, making your English sound smoother and more fluent. In the next session, we'll have a natural conversation using where, when, and why, so you can hear how native speakers use them in everyday English. Now, let's listen to a natural conversation using where, when, and why.
Great. Emma, do you remember the cafe where we first met?
Of course. That's the place where we spent hours talking in English.
I also remember the day when we decided to start this English podcast.
Yes, that was the moment when we realized we wanted to help English learners around the world.
Many people ask us the reason why we started this channel.
The reason why we started is simple. We love teaching English and helping people become more confident.
I still enjoy visiting the library where we planned our first lessons.
And I'll never forget the year when our first podcast reached thousands of listeners.
That's one of the reasons why we continue creating new lessons every week.
Learning English becomes much easier when you practice through real conversations like this.
Exactly. Instead of memorizing grammar rules, you're hearing how native speakers naturally use these expressions.
So remember, where talks about places, when talks about time, and why talks about reasons.
Once you understand those three ideas, choosing the correct relative adverb becomes much easier.
In the next session, we'll do a quick review and share some simple tips to help you remember where, when, and why forever. Before we finish today's lesson, let's quickly review everything we've learned about where, when, and why.
Great idea. These three relative adverbs become much easier when you remember what each one refers to.
First, where is used for places.
For example, this is the park where we play every weekend.
Next, when is used for time.
For example, I remember the day when I started learning English.
Finally, why is used for reasons.
For example, that's the reason why I study English every day.
Here's an easy memory trick. Ask yourself one simple question.
If you're talking about a place, choose where. If you're talking about a time, choose when. If you're talking about a reason, choose why.
Another helpful tip is to learn these grammar patterns through complete sentences instead of memorizing grammar rules.
The more you read English books, listen to podcasts, and watch English videos, the more naturally you'll hear these expressions.
And don't be afraid to use them in your own speaking and writing. Practice is the fastest way to improve.
Remember, fluent English isn't about knowing difficult grammar. It's about using simple grammar correctly and naturally.
In our final session, we'll summarize today's lesson, give you a short challenge, and say goodbye. Daniel, today we've learned how to use three very important relative adverbs: where, when, and why.
That's right. These words may seem small, but they make your English sound much smoother, more natural, and more fluent.
We learned that where is used to talk about places.
For example, this is the restaurant where we had dinner.
Then we learned that when is used to talk about time.
For example, I'll never forget the day when I graduated.
Finally, we learned that why is used to explain a reason.
For example, that's the reason why I started learning English.
Here's a challenge for everyone listening today.
Write 3 sentences, one using where, one using when, and one using why. It's a simple way to practice today's lesson.
Remember, don't just memorize grammar rules. Use them in real conversations whenever you can.
The more you read, listen, speak, and write in English, the more naturally these relative adverbs will become part of your vocabulary.
If you enjoyed today's English podcast, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with another English learner.
And tell us in the comments, which relative adverb was the most confusing for you before today's lesson? Where, when, or why?
Thank you so much for listening to the Easy English podcast. Keep practicing, keep improving, and we'll see you in the next episode.